Sig, I think we're live on the internet now, bud. What you think, dude? Well, good morning, everybody. I am Nick Slavik. I'm the proprietor of the Nick Slavik Painting and Restoration Company, and this is Wonder Pup Sig. He's joining me. Oh, you want one of those? He's joining me in the box blind today as we get ready for weekend with the family, one of my kids' birthdays, and then the big week, our Super Bowl week in the painting industry, the PCA Expo. So it's all hands on deck, and I'm doing my final preparations. So yeah, it is a beautiful winter day here in Minnesota. We're having a crazy warm winter. Um, I typically, you remember in the summer, I do a lot of box blind sessions out here, and it's a great place to think. It's in the back of my beautiful little farm. All of our land management and wilderness is going on. We're here in Pheasants Cackle this morning, across the marsh. And little Sig, I just bring him out here for a little morning walk, and then of course want him to come sit with me so he doesn't run off and chase any birdies or anything while we're doing the live broadcast. But it's a place for me and for my family to kind of contemplate, to think, to sort of like be in the wilderness, and and especially before the PCA Expo when there's a lot of stuff that's going to go on this week. I am the board chair. I got lots of official duties. Monday, I lead a board of directors meeting, strategy session. So yeah, meetings may have a bad name, but I absolutely love these things. I love leading from the board of directors. I absolutely love strategy sessions, vision sessions, and I don't take for granted that I'm the board chair of a 140-year-old nonprofit. And in order for this thing to excel in the future, we got to put in a lot of hard work. This isn't show up to a meeting, barely read the financials, and move on with your life. This is a big thing, and I do not take it lightly. So there you go. And so, yeah, it's going to be a great week. And of course, the expo starts. It's going to be all the crazy parties in the evenings, PPG, Benjamin Moore, Sherwin Williams, all that stuff. We'll have some private get togethers, this and that. We'll have all the crazy content, the education, the things during the day. It is going to be so good to see all these people. As far as we can tell, the numbers look like this is the biggest one that we have on record. And I like to hear that, not only because I want to see more people, but because a year ago, I and the rest of the board gave the instruction to the operations staff that we want the biggest one yet. We want the biggest expo yet. We want the most attendees. We want the most vendors. We want the biggest parties. We want the best education and all that other stuff. And as far as we can tell, I think we've done it. So now it's the execution, right? All the plans, all the best plans go sideways when the first bullet flies. So as soon as Expo starts, it's going to be absolutely amazing. There's going to be tons of people there. It's going to be so fun. But I have not only is there a ton of prep for the board of directors meeting, I'm reading 70 pages of bylaws and policies and things like that to make sure that I'm, being in accordance with 140-year-old nonprofits sort of rulings and things like that. See, bud, there you go. And then, obviously I'll have a whole bunch of official duties. We'll have our award ceremonies. I'll be announcing the main keynote speaker. But on the last day, they've been nice enough for the last couple of years to award me the last, the keynote on the last day, right? The sort of thing. And it's my portion of that is sort of known for really the heartbeat of the industry, the feelings of a 32-year master craftsperson, somebody who's a veteran business owner of 16 years, and somebody who really does love this industry, this trade, and everything else. And boy, if I got a doozy of a speech for you guys. So a lot of times I've been keeping notes for about 6 months. I've been crafting my 15-minute keynote to within an inch of its life. And this is where you put the final things on. You start walking through it in your head. You're with your Wonder Pup. You're in your wilderness. We got fire rolling here. This is a beautiful place to contemplate. So it just makes you introspective. It makes you think about all those deep thoughts you would never rather have in your office or otherwise. And it's just a great contemplative space out here. So really looking forward to seeing everybody next week. Of course, we're setting records with numbers, but as painters go, a lot of times people just walk up to the door, and that's fine too. And we will be ready for you. If you just show up, we will take care of you at the expo. There's been some variable pricing before, because obviously we give some pretty good discounts prior to the the expo. So of course you've all missed the early bird stuff now because we're starting in about 3 days. But I think the price is either 1,000 or 1,100 bucks, and while that is not nothing, what you get for it is pretty insane. Um, you get at least 4 days of education, lectures, crazy breakout session, world class speakers. You get meals, you get drinks, and you get all meals and drinks in the evening with these parties. I think PPG the first night there may not be a meal. Benjamin Moore and Sherwin-Williams, they usually blow the doors off and do some pretty amazing work like that. So it is for what you pay and what you get. You're not going to do much better than that, especially with investing in yourself. What I like about the PCA is that it is singular, and there is no other place to find that. If you want this, if you want world-class education, standards, togetherness, being around other world-class people to push you, there's really no other place to get that sort of thing. So it is singular. It is an amazing experience, and I would just urge everybody to, I just dare you to go sometime, right? So there will always be things to do in our businesses. There will always be things we can do for our people. There will always be an excuse. One more job. This job has to be done. I have to do this. I would just say invest in yourself, right? The year from here on out does not get less busy, right? It is February going into early March. Yes, owning a business will always be busy, but it's not July and August in our industry. So I would just urge you, take the time and do it. We make many other sacrifices in our life. This one is definitely worth it. It has changed my life as a pro, as a human. My closest friends have come from the PCA, and I do not take that for granted. So it's been an absolutely wonderful experience, and I would just urge you guys have all heard me talk about the expo. It just is what it is at this point. If you don't know about it, go to the PCA website. If you need some more information, you can always email me, nick@nickslavik.com. But otherwise, our focus solely as an organization, me personally, has been shoring up our people who underwrite us, our big sponsors, shoring up those relationships so we have a vibrant organization, and then executing an expo. There's sort of like in the time of a year, there is BC and AD. There's before, well, it should be BE and AE. Before Expo and after Expo. After Expo, we absolutely start what the real work of the PCA after that, which is the Expo is our main event. We run that P&L like it's a mini business, which it is. We craft it within an inch of its life. We're having two meetings a week, going over the profit and loss, negotiating with the hotel to make sure we get you guys the best value. It is an enormous amount of humans have put an enormous amount of time over this. And I mean, if I had to add this up, there's probably 12,000 hours that go into planning this thing over the course of a year. And it is all hands on deck. You got a team of about 35 people right now that are doing work all week, all weekend, getting ready, doing the final prep for this expo. So you should be very proud of your organization for that. Then we get to the work of actually executing the other promises of the PCA. The PCA Expo is all encompassing. Once that's behind us, we do a debrief and we can really get to work on the strategy of the PCA. And this year, we're going to see a big outward change in what we do. Our locus of control has been internal for a lot of years, rightly so. We're modernizing, we're professionalizing, we're changing, we're adapting to the times, the requests of our industry, and now we've shored up an amazing resource internally, and we just need to get the word out. So I am here at a special time in a special place, and I'm standing on the shoulders of a lot of people who put in a lot of work that nobody sees, and I'm not. It doesn't go over my head that I'm going to be the recipient of a lot of praise that is, it should be spread around a little bit. I will definitely do that, but just don't ever think it doesn't go over my head that, people have built up this beautiful foundation of this pyramid, and we're about to lay the last 30 courses at the top of this thing. And I just can't wait for it. It's going to be absolutely awesome. Now, about last week's show. Man, have I been thinking a lot about last week's show. So I have been, I've been really thinking a lot about situational leadership, micromanaging, things like that. Last week's show was all about that. And it was really spurred on by, as a leader, oh, good one, buddy. As a leader, I have thoughts and data, right? And the data says the harder I lean into my people, the more I micromanage, the more I support, the more I lead with empathy, the more I uphold the standards, the happier people are, and the better we perform. And the biggest problem with that is the data is that, but the feelings is if you say you're a micromanager, people think you're the devil, right? And it's just a really weird sort of thing where as leaders, we're often given these. So I'm just making sure I'm not melting next to my wood stove here. As managers, we're sometimes given these places, and this is where true leaders are formed. When you have disparate data, or data is disparate from your feelings, right? You're left in a position where there's not a clear answer. Your data tells you one thing, your feelings tell the other, and now as a leader, this is where you put your big boy, big girl pants on and make some decisions and earn your money, which is now what? In an area of blue ocean, black space, what kind of decisions are you going to make? It's not clear. And a lot of times you don't have a first line supervisor or a boss or anybody to talk to about this, right? You can't just go to your manager and say, well, here's the things I'm experiencing based on your experience. You tell me what to do, or you take this responsibility because you're the first line supervisor. That doesn't happen right now. So this is where leaders put their big boy, big girl pants on and make some decisions. And I'm a micromanager. We're going to recapture that word. A micromanager is a positive thing. Now, what we need to separate out from is micromanagement versus mismanagement, right? Just because somebody's been doing something for 8 years and you put them in charge of other people doesn't mean they even have the basic qualifications to lead another human. Doing the task versus leading other people in the task are two of the most different things on the face of the planet. Even if that task doesn't change, you are a painter. You have been doing this for 8 years. You get put in charge of 4 other painters. That is a completely different job. It is a completely different job. It is management, not painting. Right? Now, you might say, well, now I have experience. I know what I'm doing. I'm going to manage painters. You might succeed wildly. You might be a great leader of men and women. I have seen more data and examples of people who are not that. Number one, there's not that many great managers out there, right? Naturally. Number two, there's not that many great managers out there because there's not that many businesses that actually make great managers, right? So that's another problem. Managing humans, this is my experience with it, right? So I'm not gonna say overarching this and that. People are not that great at accountability on a whole, right? The best managers, the best leaders end up being ultra accountable. They will take ownership and responsibility for other people's actions, even when they're bad, right? That's something that I did not have to train myself to do. That is a naturally highly developed skill I have, amongst many other very undeveloped skills that I need to have. But that was one of those things where my name is on this organization. And if we don't fulfill our promise, I will stand in front of whoever we made that promise to and say, I own this. Right? Now, I didn't say our people screwed up. I said our people are horrible. They don't know what they're doing, this and that. Our people are great. But you don't need to say we're stupid, we're bad, but you need to say, I take ownership of this. And if you ever want to disarm one of those client conversations, we probably have 6 a year where a client has pretty high emotions when they're dealing with us. Out of 750, 775 jobs, you're going to have, in my company, you're going to have 6 a year, right? And one of the best strategies ever, and this is, we always think about management and leaders as employees. You can manage and lead clients as well, too. And that's something that I really don't hear people talking about. So the way I manage my clients when they need me is to set proper expectations up front, which is, listen, if you're not happy here, I'm not going to stand here and say my people didn't perform. We perform. But if your experience is that, I'm going to own that. That's not my intention. I will apologize for that experience. And I am standing here in front of you saying, I'm listening. We're here for you. And I own this. I am accountable. So whatever you need, whatever you feel, if you feel like you're being taken advantage of, if you feel like the promise hasn't been fulfilled for you, I am standing here. My full name is on this company, and you can always call me. Now, you have a team of 6 other people to help you here, but we are accountable. And managing employees is the same thing, which is we need to be really honest about owning the relationship and setting employees up for wins. Do they have a job description that's clear and data based? Do they have a pay scale that's clear and data based? Do they have a one-on-one rhythm with you where accountability is kept and inspiration is given? Is there standard operating procedures for the company? Is there an onboarding process? Is there a training process? How do people know if they win or not? And is there a feedback loop for them? And I would say if none of this takes place in your company and it's not regular, you need to own that as a manager, right? You need to micromanage a little bit, right? In the 4 quadrants of situational leadership, S1, 2, 3, 4, you're basically taking people from S1, which is they have no idea what they're doing, but they're relatively enthusiastic, and you need to basically do it with them and for them, by them, and let them know what a win is. When you get all the way to S4, you say, here's the task that needs to get done. Go forth and do it. I'm here to support you. As managers, we need to own the fact that there are, well, 2 things. There's a lot of really bad employees out there, right? But there's a lot of really bad managers and businesses out there. And it's very easy to get around your business owner friends and shake your fist at the youth and say there's no good people working out there. I would turn that mirror around a little bit and say, if none of those things are in place in your company, I don't know that you can guarantee that somebody's going to be set up for a win. We might be bad managers and bad business owners if we don't have those things. We need to own that relationship. We are S4ing people in their first week on our jobs, right? When we should be S1ing them. And then a couple weeks later, S2. Maybe even 9 months later, S3. And then maybe 2 to 3 years later, S4, give or take. And what's really interesting is that when you look at, all the direct reports that I have, whether they're subcontractors, whether they're employees, whether they're leadership team, whether they're vendors, whether they're clients, everybody is on a different quadrant that needs something. There's some clients that are S1 clients that I need to literally stand there and hold their hand. And there's some S4 clients where there's a super good professional relationship. We execute our promise, they execute their promise to us, and we all move on with our lives. So, but that show really struck a chord with people. So the data and the feelings is, in the feelings, I thought, well, this is kind of a nerdy management show, it'll be fun for the people who really like it. They'll love it. But man, even when I posted prior to it, people have a lot of thoughts, a lot of feelings, not a lot of data about management, and especially situational leadership and situational management. And the data from the show is that in the first 24 hours, we got about 3 times more views than a typical show does on average, the mean number of viewers. And we got about 4 times more comments during the show. So evidently, folks, that struck a chord. And I know, so it's really fun to see things like me. Like when I look out at the industry, I know that there are, the 3 sort of like, there we go, the 3 sort of main buckets of people in our businesses: technicians, managers, and leaders. We know we have technicians, we're typically the leaders, and we completely miss out on the management portion in the middle there. And that struck a chord with people. I think when you simplify the world down into, most paint businesses have a leader and a technician. Sometimes they're the same. Actually, statistically, most of the time, the technician is also the leader, the owner of the company. But when you start getting employees, what you'll find is that that leader now silos themselves into the vision of the company and apps and wanting to explore and expand and things like that. Meanwhile, we completely forget about the entire management process of anything in our business. And I'm going to be honest with you, I have a lot of opinions about this because as visionaries, management is gross. I mean, biologically, a lot of us visionaries, leaders, founders, growers, scalers are not managers. Those are integrators if you follow the traction model. And if you try to make a manager a visionary, they crumble and they're stressed out and they typically will leave your company. If you try to make a visionary a manager, they will typically do that too. The problem is when the visionary owns the company, you can't crumble and, well, you can crumble and leave. You can stop operating your business. But I see he's keying into you have a birdie out there, bud? Yeah. You really start keying into, he's asserting dominance over me here. So yeah, you really start keying into these things where the leader is the owner of the business and you can't really leave. Now, the problem is in our industry, the blatant truth is that we need managers. 99% of us, if you follow the stats, 99, 90, I'll just keep talking. Sig will move his head eventually. 99% of all the paint businesses in the United States don't have a manager. The ones in the 1% that have a bunch of employees, statistically, when I look around, don't have a manager either. There's probably 0.2% of all paint businesses in the United States that literally have a professional manager that actually manages humans in a professional way. And that's a big problem, folks. The reason that paint businesses make $43,000 a year and they go out of business every 18 months is nobody's managing these things. Everybody's out there painting, everybody's laying down a vision, getting apps and thinking about expanding the company, and nobody's there just taking care of the day-to-day promises. So the client experience goes down, the employee experience goes down, there's massive turnover, and then the people say, this is too stressful. I was a painter once. I started my painting business so I could make more money and have more freedom, and now I have less money and less freedom. Employees are stupid. I'm going back to just painting for somebody else or painting by myself. That's not bad, folks. That's not bad. The problem is most of these people did not understand that you have to encompass two things in a small business. You need to be the visionary. You also need to be the integrator. The visionary is the founder, scaler, grower, in charge of big relationships, things like that, creating something out of nothing. The integrator actually takes those big ideas from the visionary and gets some traction on the ground. And the problem is, visionaries are almost like biologically opposed to doing stuff like that. They do not like doing it. It does not give them energy. The interesting thing is you have to know this, and whether you want to or not, congratulations, you own a business. These are just things you have to do. You can shake your fist at the universe, you can be angry and sad about it, and you can wallow in your own self-pity. The problem is if you start a business, these things need to happen whether you want them to or not. So the biggest challenge in our industry over the next couple of years, maybe even decade, is can we be managers, right? And this is something I've been working on for about 2 years by myself, not by myself, on myself. And it is taking a mountain of intentionality. I am not a fully formed manager yet. I'm working on it. I am a visionary. I am a blue blood, tried and true, blue flame thinker, visionary. It does not give me a lot of energy. I shouldn't say that. It used to not give me a lot of energy to be a manager. But to me, it's like a challenge. It's like Jason Paris's Iron Man or 200-mile races, which are, yeah, it's probably not going to be all that delightful during the process and sometimes even the training up to it. But the result is ultimately deeply satisfying. And when I see my people respond to me when I'm a good manager, that makes me happy. You're supporting your people like nobody else. Over the past couple of years, we've been able to recruit some of the best humans on earth because we have a empathetic, high standards manager in the company now. I'm not perfect, right? But I've seen people leave industries, people leave jobs, people leave their own family businesses for that support because there's so few people out there. And I do not take that for granted. And probably for the rest of my life, I will continue to work on these sort of managerial skills. It's very likely in the distant future I will get my company to a point where I can hire an operations manager, a general manager, a CEO, an integrator, somebody who can do this and does it way better than me. Doesn't mean I have to stop that and shed it. I need to hold that person accountable, but I also need to support my people in a visionary and leader way now. And that's a completely other voice as a leader. So this is nothing more than me saying that show struck a chord with a lot of people. A lot of people. I got so many comments, so many messages, so many people contacting me. A lot of people have my cell phone, I realize, for over the years from creating all these friendships. And lots of people messaged me afterwards with some deep thoughts. And the common through line through most of them was like, God dang it. My company needs a manager. And guess what? There's not room to hire one. So it was all basically one of these things like, God dang it, I gotta manage like that. And not that they like don't want to or that, but they're like, when the data and the feelings as a leader align, you know you need management, right? You don't get energy for it, so maybe you kind of like don't do it a little bit, or you find ways around it, or you make excuses why you don't have to. But when you just hear it put in super blatant terms sometimes, you're like, yeah, shoot, that's it. And that show was spurred on literally by my buddy Matt Kuiper, who sent me an Instagram reel of somebody saying, yeah, some of the best businesses on earth are micromanaged. What do you think Elon Musk does? He's making bumpers for his own cars, right? You want to talk about micromanagement? One of the richest guys on earth is into the engineering of his businesses. Now, say what you want about Elon Musk as a human and whatever else, but as a business person and as a manager, leader, founder, grower, scaler, vision integrator, you can't say he's not effective, right? And he is into those companies. Um, I just heard one of the best interviews I've heard in a long time. Lex Friedman has a podcast, and he interviewed Bill Ackman, who's an activist investor. And I mean, again, one of the richest guys in the world, he said investing in the stock market wasn't enough passively. He needed to actually take control of some of these companies, get on the board of directors, maybe even own a large portion of them, and then manage them rightly. So there's a through line through some of the most effective humans on earth. And again, I'm not one of those guys who makes these gross comparisons to Elon Musk and his own painting business. But what I look for is truisms in management and leadership. And a truism is some of the most effective people on earth, they're leaning in hard. Now, other businesses, maybe you think of like Apple, Google, maybe the founders aren't in there doing all the nitty gritty stuff, but they certainly have other people who do. So the through line I'm seeing through a lot of this is it is not a sin to lean in, but you have to lean in the right way. Micromanagement is different than mismanagement. Right, bud? Remove your buns away from the fire here, dude. There you go. Micromanagement, but micromanagement is different than mismanagement. Bad managers are mismanagers. You can micromanage in a wonderful way where your people walk away saying, God dang it, I'm better because of this partnership. I feel supported all the time. I'm given all the resources I need, and there's a feedback loop to let me know how I win. That's micromanagement. You're in the details of everything. I look at every single job every single week and the job costing of that, and we track down every hour, every tenth of an hour, every gallon of materials because I want to instill that in my team, that exactness in a few areas is very important to the business. Now, there's other areas that are feelings based and don't need to be as exact, but there's a few areas, and this is I've been sort of thinking about this in terms of the military, and it makes a lot more sense to me the more people I have to lead every day, which is there's a lot of things that are absurd about military service. Like there's a standard operating procedure to make your bed, but I get it. It's teaching that there's a standard for everything, right? And you don't have to be that rigorous in every part of your life, but they teach you how to make your bed as a stepping stone to understanding what a standard operating procedure is. When you are a captain, when you are a colonel, a lieutenant colonel, a major, they don't hold you accountable to the standard operating procedure in your bed. But 20 years ago, when you were a young lieutenant or even a young private, you learned how important it was to master the basic things so that when you have large scale vision and planning, you are just as rigorous. You are just as disciplined as when you used to do your bed. So a lot of times people complain about the Army and federal service and things like that, and I do too. But don't think I don't understand what it's for. It is a training process to get you in the mindset of being a good manager, right? So I will leave it at that. Deep thoughts today and all weekend. Paris and I will be flying out Sunday night, getting in late to Orlando. Board of directors meeting all day Monday. Then the festivities begin. Monday night, we sort of register, have some opening parties. Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday are the big expo dates for all the education and stuff like that. Culminates with the Sherwin-Williams event Thursday night. We do the expo closes Friday after we do our charity painting project in the morning. Then we all fly home to our families. So, man, I'm looking forward to it this week. And I will tell you, I am thoroughly enjoying leading from a board of directors, having an active hand, like an activist investor or an Elon Musk leaning into his business. You cannot lead unilaterally. You cannot manage unilaterally on a 140-year-old nonprofit with, I mean, there could be 70 people between the operations staff of the PCA and the board of directors. And learning how to affect change through and with other world-class people is one of the hardest things I've ever done. I'm still a baby leader in that regard. I'm learning, but god dang, is it fun. And it's such a privilege to serve with these other servant leaders and lead this organization. And my God, it is not a series of meetings. You show up and get a free meal in a hotel room. It is servant leadership at its finest. Like providing the results of what we do at the PCA are Expo, are all the events during the year, standards for the industry, world-class training, painter and business, and these relationships that we're forming. And if you want to talk about a legacy, which I've been thinking a lot about lately, is this 140-year-old organization. People in the 1880s started this thing, and they had no idea that me and my dog were going to be sitting in this box blind thinking about this. They planted seeds that grew into trees under which the shade they will never sit, which is a big thing. It's amazing when you think about it. On my farm here, we have a old, scary farmhouse from the 1880s. That thing was built about the same year that the PCA was formed. And it's really amazing to think about that legacy that people leave. So this expo is another portion of that legacy. We're going to have one of the biggest, best expos in 140 years. It's going to be absolutely amazing. And I can't wait to see everybody. And this little man's keying into some birds. So Sig, what do you say, bud? What do you say? Should we go chase some little birds out there before we go in? All right. Can't wait to see all you guys. Man, this is going to be a fun year, everybody. And we'll probably revisit that micromanagement thing eventually. All right. See